Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to more Magic Arena. Today we have another sealed event of Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Excited to pop open some more of this set, so let's just open up these packs and see what we get. So it looks like today we've got a Werewolf Pack Leader in green. Very solid card. A 3/3 for only 2 mana is above the curve, although costing double green makes it a little bit difficult to consistently cast on turn 2. Has a great pack tactics trigger, drawing a card when you attack with 6 or greater power. And for 4 mana, it even has an ability to become a 5/3 and gain trample until the end of turn. So it can break through for a little bit of extra damage, or even you can use that effect to buff it up and trigger its own pack tactics if you don't have that much other power on your field. So Werewolf Pack Leader, a very solid rare here, as is Paladin class. 1 mana for an enchantment. Spells your opponents cast during your turn cost 1 more to cast. For 3 mana, you level it up, and now your creatures get +1/+1 as well. And then for 5 mana, you also get to make it so whenever you attack, one of your attacking creatures gets +1/+1 for each other attacking creature and gains double strike. This card is a brutal aggressive card, very hard to beat on the defensive, and it's going to go excellently into any limited deck. We've got Oswald Fiddlebender. This one's a lot harder to work around with. There's just not a boatload of great artifacts in the format, at least not enough that will likely get any combos with this in sealed. You could definitely draft around this a little bit. You can sacrifice like a treasure token to grab a 1 mana artifact, which is fun. You can sacrifice a 2 mana artifact to get a 3 mana one and so forth. So unless we have any really good artifacts to pick up with this one's not so exciting, but still 2 mana 2/2 with a potential bit of upside is a solid card. We have the Black Staff of Waterdeep. Another one really depends on what our sealed pool contains within. This one not particularly exciting unless we have a ton of decent artifacts. The one thing I really don't like about this card is that it can only make your non-token artifacts 4/4s. So the way this works, it's 1 mana artifact, 2 mana, tap it, turn one of your artifacts into a 4/4 as long as this remains tapped, and you can leave it tapped if you want. I really feel like this would have been still a safe card to make if it could make treasure tokens 4/4s. Because I feel like even then it wouldn't really do anything busted in constructed, and at that point it would be a really fun card to draft and sealed around. But as it stands, I don't really think there's a ton you can do with this, and it's very dependent on what we've opened in our sealed pool. Now we have Instrument of the Bards. 1 green mana for a legendary artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a harmony counter on it, and for 4 mana, tap it, search your library for a creature with mana value equal to the number of harmony counters on it, reveal it, put it into your hand, and if it's legendary, you get a treasure token. This seems fine, definitely seems solid for sealed, might be a little slow for draft, but of course we're playing sealed today, so I'll probably try running this card if we do go green with our Werewolf Pack Leader there. Should be a pretty decent mana sink in the late game. If you have like a lot of 2 mana creatures in your deck, just wait till it has 2 harmony counters on it, and then all of a sudden 4 mana tap, you're consistently drawing an extra creature every turn. Pretty solid card there. Then we have Treasure Chest as well. Another kind of slow card, but potentially good. This one, very RNG dependent, very luck dependent. It's very rarely good to get the 5 treasure tokens, so you really are banking on getting a 10 to 19 on your roll for Treasure Chest to be good. But if you do, gaining 3 life and drawing 3 cards is pretty solid. That being said, I have been bummed out by this card in the past quite a bit. I just get those treasure tokens pretty consistently, and unless your deck really has a lot of uses for the treasures, spending 7 mana over the course of 2 turns just to get those treasure tokens doesn't often do too much. So, not a massive fan of the treasure chest, but depending on what we end up with, we might try that out. So ideally, based on our rares, if we have some good cards in white, some good cards in green, we can go with that. And I can already say, looking at the white up here, it looks like our white is pretty great all around. So I'm almost guaranteed to be trying to play white here. Not only do we have the bomb rare of Paladin class, we have Portable Hole, which is great removal against cheap cards. We'll definitely play it. We have 2 Minimus Containment, which is removal against any non-land permanent, which is excellent. Definitely really good to have 2 of those. Priest of Ancient Lore is another excellent common. A 2/1 for 3 mana that gains life and draws a card. Replaces itself, keeps your hand fueled, makes sure you can keep casting spells throughout the game. Very solid card. Arborea Pegasus here, another great one. This can chip in for some damage by giving one of your creatures flying until end of turn, as well as just give you a permanent flyer on the board, a 2/3 to start chipping away through a board stall situation. So I really like the Pegasus as well, and we have 2. We even have the big late game flyer White Dragon here, a 6 mana 4/4 flyer that taps a creature an opponent controls and forces it to not untap for another turn. So keeps your opponent's creature in check for a little bit, as well as giving you a big 4/4 flyer in the late game. Very good card. So right here, right now, this is only our great white cards in the deck, and we have plenty. And we have plenty of solid filler as well. I think Plate Armor is just slightly worse than the rest of these, but it's very, very good still. So I should probably put that in and say this is the white deck with only our great cards. But yeah, after that, we have a bunch of solid filler cards. We got the 2 mana 2/2 Oswald. We got the Dawnbringer Cleric, a 1/3 with some versatile effects. We can just gain some life. Or if our opponent has a powerful rare enchantment out, like their own Paladin class style card, we can of course just choose to dispel magic and destroy it. So really nice to have main deckable enchantment hate just in case your opponent has one of the powerful class cards. So I do like Dawnbringer Cleric. And then there's like, you hear something on watch. We can run this card mainly for set off traps as a defensive removal spell, dealing 5 to an attacking creature. And then after that, maybe like a Ranger Hawk here. Little 1/1 flyer that chips in for a while, good with equipment, and once you get into the late game, if things get a little locked down and you're both just staring at each other with a board of a bunch of creatures, you can start using this to venture over and over, so you're at least doing something in that board stall situation. So Ranger's Hawk's fine as well. After that, maybe like a Delver's Torch, a bit slow, but in seals you can use these kind of slow cards. This one helps you consistently dig through the dungeon. Certainly good with flyers, and we've got quite a few of those. We have Ranger's Hawk, 2 Pegasus, and a White Dragon. So, like, maybe we could run that. But yeah, that's plenty of playable white cards, if nothing else, even if some of them that we put in at the very end there are a little mediocre. So let's see what we have in blue here. It's not looking great. We have very, very few blue creatures, it looks like. We have 2? Is that really a thing? Yeah, we have 2 blue creatures. So if we were blue-white, we'd have Soul Knife Spy, Genie Windseer. Some decent removal, though. We have Charmed Sleep, tapping a creature down and keeping it tapped as long as this is on the board. We have 2 Ray of Frost. This doesn't tap a creature unless it's a red creature, but it still keeps it tapped down. So if your opponent attacks you with something or taps something for its activated ability, you can throw a Ray of Frost on it and it won't untap again. So Ray of Frost still solid even if you're not playing against a red deck. And then there's like some Bar the Gates, which seem like fine counter spells, counter a spell and then venture into the dungeon. So get a little bit of value there. But yeah, overall, the blue's definitely looking pretty mediocre. I guess I should take a look at our multicolored cards. Oh, interesting. Okay, we don't have a single multicolored card in our sealed pool. Well, that'll make things a lot simpler. Sometimes I do forget to look at the multicolored cards. Usually you do get 1 or 2 good, like, multicolored uncommons. That'll be like the legendary creatures that show off the different archetypes for the color pairs. So the white-blue legendary uncommon allows you to trigger all of your room abilities of the dungeons twice. So if you venture into the dungeon, say you venture into the Lost Mine of Fandelver, trigger that cave entrance. Instead, you'll trigger it twice, so you get to scry 2 when you venture into the dungeon instead of just 1. But yeah, looks like we're not going to get any of those multicolored build-arounds here, so not a huge fan of how the blue is looking. All in all, I do think it's nice not to have any of the multicolored cards here, just to make it a little bit simpler, so we can just slam in, like, here's our white cards, we'll slam in a secondary color and see what secondary color looks best just by the monocolored cards. So in black, we have Reaper's Talisman. This is a card I didn't really look at very highly at the start of the format, but after I played against it like once or twice, I was like, oh dear, this card is actually very devastating. 1 mana to play it and 2 mana to equip. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, it gains Death Touch until end of turn, and whenever the equipped creature attacks alone, defending player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This is a really good card in almost any position. Ideally, when your boards are at parity or there's like a board stall situation when both of your boards just have a ton of decent creatures out. All of a sudden you throw this on your weakest creature, just like your little 1/1 token or something, and a position where neither of you are going to be attacking each other for a while turns into a position where no matter what, you're draining your opponent for 2 life a turn, and potentially you're trading up your 1/1 into a better creature of theirs, or if they don't take the trade, then instead they take 3 damage and you gain 2 life. Really, really solid card here. It just ends up being good in so many positions on the board. Pretty much the only position where it's not good is when you're in the lead by far, or you're behind by far. If you're like really, really, really in the lead to where you want to be attacking with a ton of creatures, so you don't get that extra trigger of draining them some life, then it's not so great. And if you're way behind where you really need stuff that helps you block, it doesn't really help you block at all. It doesn't give you death touch on blocks, doesn't give you any effect on blocks. But wow, is it great when you and your opponent are in a similar board state. So I'm just going to throw in all the pretty filler creatures that I think are fine. The Hexblade, 2 mana 2/2, Sepulchre Ghoul, 2/1 that can sack a creature and get a counter. Do like the Thieves' Tools, giving unblockability with cards like the Yanti Fangblade, although it might be our only card that cares about dealing combat damage to our opponent to get a good effect off, so not super sure on that, but Thieves' Tools is also great in a board stall like the Reaper's Talisman is. Death Priest of Merkle is fun. Don't know if we have any. We have 1 zombie. We have 2 zombies. Alright, we'll have like 3 cards that are tribal with this. Even by itself, it can potentially make its own little army of skeletons, but it'll do that pretty slowly, so I do ideally want a decent amount of skeletons, vampires, or zombies in the main deck. And it looks like we'll have 3 zombies if we're playing black. The Sepulchre Ghoul, Shambling Ghast, and the Zombie Ogre here. And then we have some big slow removal, the Eyes of the Beholders. 6 mana, instant speed, -11/-11. That can kill pretty much anything. It's just quite a lot of mana to do it in comparison to like Minimus Containment does it for only 3 mana. So the black-white looks pretty fine here. And I'm not going to whittle down to 40 card versions of any of these decks. I'm just going to look at like the general best cards in each color, how the deck looks. Definitely think black-white looks a lot better than blue-white did, but nothing incredibly exciting here. Just looks pretty solid to me. And I'm always hoping that there will be a color pair in my sealed pool that really speaks to me, that I get really excited about, and I'm really hoping that ends up being green-white here, because we do have that powerful werewolf pack leader in there, but we'll see. Black-white right now between blue-white and black-white. Black-white is looking the best that we have. Ooh, we have some very good aggressive red cards here. That is for sure, but we don't have a ton of red, so we'll have to use some colorless cards in the sealed pool. So, do we have any removal in red? Not really. We have an improvised weaponry, but that only does 2 damage, so it only kills very small things. Yeah, that might be a bit of a stretch. Alright, well, I do think we have some pretty great red aggressive creatures and some decent red equipment. I do like the Boots of Speed a lot. It's just a really cheap equip cost, so anything that cares about being equipped gets a lot better. Like Armory Veterans here. Very cheap to equip, and then we have a 3/2 Haste Menace. And it's also just really nice for only 1 mana to give things +1 power and haste. So like turn 5, you can now play an Arborea Pegasus and attack with it in the sky that same turn. Also, that +1 additional power for cheap helps trigger pack tactics effects, like the very powerful one on Battlecry Goblin. So I think we have some really solid aggressive red cards. We don't have any more removal, and very, very little is added late game. If we want to just go for like a curve out aggro deck, red-white could be fine here. But let's see how our green looks. We do have that Instrument of the Bards that can be a lot of fun in a long game. I'll definitely try that out if we're playing green. Don't know about just the combat trick Bull Strength unless we're super aggressive. I'll play a Basilisk. I'll play a Pack Leader here. I already said my piece on that card. We have double Spoils of the Hunt. Great. We get 2 more removal spells by playing green. Very happy to see that. And this card works really well with our Death Toucher, the Underdark Basilisk. We only have the 1 Death Toucher, but still, really solid combo there. We have Bullet that gets bigger when creatures are dying, or Inspiring Bard that has some decent enter the battlefield effects. And oh no, that ends our green right there. Well, maybe green's not as exciting as I thought it was. We do have Werewolf Pack Leader, Instrument of the Bards, Double Spoils of the Hunt. Those are all our exciting cards, and then we do throw in some filler like we would with any other colors. Throw in some 4-drops, seems fine. Just to fill out the curve a bit. These are both like mediocre, just fine filler cards, but they give us a little more late game stuff. We'd need 1 more card in the deck. I don't really love any of our artifacts. I think my favorite artifact out of everything we have is the dungeon map, and I really like the dungeon map in decks like the green-blue deck that I drafted. I like this card a lot in decks that can use both halves of this card. So if you're the kind of deck that could use a mana rock that ramps you up to help cast, your 5-6 mana cards, then this card is very good because it helps you get that mana when you need it to cast your big spells earlier in the game. And once you run out of big spells to do, once you run out of stuff to do with your mana, you can just start dumping it into the dungeon map to venture farther into the dungeon. I don't really love it in this deck, and the reason is we just don't have a lot of 5-6 mana cards to use the first ability to help cast. It will help us get to 4 mana cards. It'll help us maybe cast, a 3-drop and a 2-drop on turn 5 or anything like that, but certainly not at its best, I think, in this strategy. In this deck. Can definitely run just like a Cursed Idol here to destroy an artifact or enchantment in the main deck, and if our opponent isn't playing any, we can just venture into the dungeon, so it's not a dead draw in those matchups. Although there's also Choose Your Weapon, which can get rid of a flyer, and it has just the pump spell effect, so that it's not a dead draw if your opponent doesn't have flyers. Yeah, I kind of like just throwing in one of these modal cards as the last card in the deck. They're both fine. We could even put in a Circle the Moon Druid, I guess. A 4-2 during your turn or a 2-4 during your opponent's turn is pretty fine. How many creatures do we have in the deck? We only have 12 creatures in here. I suppose we should think about just throwing another creature in. And, Direwolf Prowler might be the best because it fills out our curve pretty well. Now we have something to do on 5 mana. On 5 mana now we have a 5 mana 4/4 haste essentially because we play this and activate its ability there. And if we don't have the mana for that, we just throw it out on turn 3. That's a thing we can do. Let's see. With the pretty low creature count here, I'm not so sure how well the Instrument of the Bards will work. Although, we do have 4 2-mana creatures, so we can wait until this hits 2 verse counters on it. 2 harmony counters, my bad. That's the other Bard instrument, Yison's instrument from several sets ago that makes verse counters. Once this hits 2 harmony counters, we can just use its effect until we've drawn all of our 2-drops out of the deck, and then we wait till it has the 3rd and start drawing all the 3-drops. Once we're out of those, start drawing the 4-drops. Yeah, because we have 4 cards at 2, 3 at 3, and then 4 at 4, we can kind of just go up the chain here. It doesn't really matter that we don't have 8 2-drops or something, because we can, once we're out of 2-drops, just go to 3-drops. Yeah, Instrument of the Bards, I think I've talked myself into it there. Seems solid. Considering taking out the Delver's Torch here, don't know how much I love it here. It is a lot to equip. We do have some flyers to get in and keep venturing through the dungeon, but I'm kind of looking into maybe getting some more creatures into this deck. I kind of just like plate armor better. If we're throwing Delver's Torch onto a flyer and trying to get incremental value over the course of the game, we could also just be throwing plate armor onto a flyer and killing our opponent really quickly, because even our smallest flyers, a 1/1 flyer, that'll be a 4/4 if it has plate armor on it. 4 damage a turn, that kills your opponent in 5 turns by itself. So you put quite the clock on your opponent, even putting a plate armor onto just a Ranger's Hawk. So I kind of feel like the Delver's Torch is definitely worse than the plate armor here. Yeah, I could see that. Get another creature in here, perhaps. Do we have any We're looking at every creature left in the sealed pool right now. Yeah, nothing great. I guess we just throw a Circle of the Moon Druid in to get one more creature in here. Now we have 4 creatures at 3 mana, 4 creatures at 2 mana, and 4 creatures at 4 mana. Pretty nice with that Instrument of the Bards. Alright, yep, there's every creature in the sealed pool, so I think I'm cool as is. I think the second best color scheme for this deck would probably be black-white here, but maybe red-white. I do think green, you know, getting those double spoils of the hunt, getting the pack leader and the Instrument of the Bards, even if we are getting a little bit fillery with the last green cards we're putting in here, I think green is overall, because of the power level of the initial green cards we're throwing in, the best secondary color for this deck. White is easily the best primary color, I would say. Alright. I think I'm pretty good with this deck as it is. Don't love trying out the treasure chest thing again. I've tried it a few times, it just hasn't done anything great for me. Iron Golem's not great because it is forced into bad attacks and blocks anytime they're available. So if your opponent just has a 3-2 out, your Iron Golem is very sad. Trade your 5-3 into their 3-2. But it would give us another creature. We have 14 now. We're kind of okay on creatures, although we could use some more. I kind of think I like the deck as it is. We can call it here. And let's double check our colorless cards, just make sure we don't have any special lands like Evolving Wilds, but I'm pretty sure we've got nothing really fancy going on in this sealed pool, just a lot of artifacts. Yeah, no multicolored cards, no lands here. And the artifacts aren't great, kind of just some very expensive equipment for what they do. And that treasure chest, basically, in the dungeon map. Alright, well, the green-white deck it shall be. Let's head into some gameplay and see how this works out. I, again, really like the white cards in this deck. Very excited to see how well that pans out. The green is a little more random, a little more draw dependent, but our good green cards are great. And our bad green cards are still okay, they're just filler. So let's head into the first game. I'm going to take a quick drink here as I wait, and then we'll get into the gameplay. Alright, here we are in Game 1. We have the Instrument of the Bards to play on turn 1, although we won't be drawing any cards off of this until turn 4. We can just throw this out there, make sure it gets to a couple Harmony counters. Gives us something to do on turn 4. I'm going to keep this hand. We have both of our colors. Our plan is to play Instrument turn 1, Basilisk turn 2, and then we can just sit behind the Basilisk and the set-off traps to defend ourselves as we wait until we have the 4 mana to start just drawing creatures every turn and trying to flood out the board that way. We definitely have a game plan with this hand, so I'm very into it. And we don't even have to draw anything specific for this hand to work out. We just need our Instrument of the Bards to stay on the board long enough to where we can use its effect. And there's a Prosperous Innkeeper to start the game off from our opponent, gaining them a life whenever a creature enters the battlefield under their control. And they get a treasure token when they play it, so they get to ramp it to a 4 mana card next turn if they want to. Ooh, and Priest of Ancient Lore is a fantastic draw. Now we're curving out. Now we played our 1 mana card turn 1, 2 mana turn 2, play our 3 mana turn 3, and on turn 4 we get to tap out for the effect on the Instrument of the Bards. So that is very solid. Although there is a Hoarding Ogre from our opponent, a 3/3 that gives them a treasure token every time it attacks. So it is possible I would be interested in setting off traps to kill that, but I think I'm just going to hope they don't have removal for the Basilisk, and I'll go for the Death Touch block on it. Another land from our opponent, so now they have 4 mana from the lands alone, plus anything that the ogre would give them. Uh-oh, there's a barbarian class, so whenever they roll dice, they gain advantage on dice rolls, basically, so they roll 2 dice and pick the best roll. They only got a 7 and an 8 there, so either way they only get the 1 treasure, so that is nice for me. We are going to trade with that ogre right now, even if I didn't want to trade for it before. Now that they have barbarian class out, I really want to trade for it, because on the next level here, whenever they roll a die, they're giving a creature +2/+0 and menace till end of turn. Very good combo with the hoarding ogre, because now every time it attacks, they roll a die. They can just make it a 5/3 menace every time it attacks. So very, very happy to go ahead and just kill that right there. So you can't remove counters from this, right? No, you can't remove counters from the Instrument of the Bard, so just in the interest of maintaining as much value as possible, I'm going to leave it on 2 so I can grab every 2-drop out of my deck and then put it to 3 and grab every 3-drop. But it's possible that just curving out with the biggest creatures ever is, or the biggest creatures possible is the most powerful way to use this. Just to get aggressive right at the start of this game. So maybe that's a bit of a mistake there. Maybe I should have put it to 3 there, that way I can put it to 4 on my next turn and start grabbing all my 4-mana creatures out. I've got 2 Pegasus, a Bullet, and then I just have White Dragon at 6. So I will run out of those creatures somewhat quickly. Alright, so they just level up the Barbarian class a lot there. Nothing else to do for them. So now their creatures all have haste, so if they play a big creature, that'll be very scary. Gonna decline again here. We draw an Arborea Pegasus. So now, because I've declined again, I can grab Oswald, and if I grab Oswald, that'll be grabbing a legendary, which means the instrument will spit out a treasure token, and I can use that treasure token to immediately cast Oswald. Although I could get in more aggressively by just slamming down a Pegasus here. Not even messing around with the instruments. Just getting in for big damage. Yeah, I'll go for that. Kind of want to put pressure on them now that they have the Barbarian class giving everything haste. And definitely considering at this point, it probably is better just to make the instrument go for big creatures immediately. Even if we'll run out of cards to draw off of it, it'll still have drawn us at least like 3 cards if we draw our 2 remaining 4-mana creatures and our 1 6-mana creature with it. What do we have at 3 mana? We have another Priest of Ancient Lore, a Circle of Moon Druid, Direwolf Prowler. At this point, I'm just kind of all in on grabbing every creature out of my deck with that thing. But again, probably shouldn't be. Could attack with everybody here and just cast You Hear Something on Watch if they block the priest. Get in for some more damage that way. But I'm planning on spending all my mana to just grab a creature and cast it immediately now. Now I get to actually keep the treasure that I get from Oswald. Guess I could blow up the Barbarian class, but it's not really doing anything right now. So I could just blow it up next turn, I suppose. And if I chose to blow up the Barbarian class here, I wouldn't get the treasure. I wouldn't be able to just run out both creatures. Now You Hear Something on Watch to rouse the party is quite likely to be lethal. It might be about time to wake everybody up here. Cancel our long rest. So our opponent's thinking here during their end step, they could sack this treasure vault to get some extra treasure tokens, give them a temporary boost in mana at the cost of one of their permanent mana sources. We'll see what they decide upon here. They do go ahead and sacrifice the treasure vault here to get a couple treasure tokens instead of the 1 land. It gives them as much mana as possible this turn to find a solution to my board state. And the Tarask is gonna be the one. If they attack with it, they do get to fight one of my creatures, but I do still get to crack back for lethal. But they're not dead on board here. So they could be hoping that this is the play that saves them. But they are tapped out now, so I will not block. And then I will go ahead and rouse the party. One of the few times I think I'll be casting that part of the spell. I guess I could show off with the Paladin class, but that's just a little, I think a little more rude, a little showboaty there. So rouse the party, get in for all that damage. And that will be the first game, 1-0 for the green-white deck. So I have to say, all in all, last game, I did actually really enjoy being able to grab Oswald and spit out that Hawk in the same turn. That made sure our board was more than wide enough to find lethal with Rouse the Party. So maybe in the absolute end of things, it was good to keep the Instrument of the Bards on 2-mana creatures. This hand does not have a curve. This hand is all at 3 mana. But they're good cards. We have both colors. Can't really mulligan that in limited. Alright. Well, got more 3 mana cards now, so we're just going to keep dumping 1 card a turn for the rest of this game, I think. They have 3 mana already, so they didn't have a 3 mana creature. If they're going to play a creature, it's going to be a 4 mana creature, which is probably pretty good, maybe to the point where I want to Minimus Containment it. So I'm actually probably going to go for Circle of the Moon Druid here, because if they don't play a creature next turn, I get to slam in for 4 damage. And if they do, it's possible I want to kill it, and if I do kill it, then I get to slam in for 4 damage. So we'll just put the creature out that can get the most damage in that turn, I think. The nice thing about the Direwolf Prowler is it curves out on turn 5 quite well, so we kind of have a 5 mana creature in hand. So we'll save that for turn 5. Looks like our opponent starts with a Grim Bounty. They're going to go ahead and throw that at our Circle of the Moon Druid. Kind of like casting our Priest of Ancient Lore this turn, again because the Direwolf Prowler is a great card to play on turn 5, but we can now cast our Instrument of the Bards as well, thanks to that draw. And we've drawn into another removal spell. The set off traps here, or maybe this will find us the win again with Rouse the Party. So I suppose next turn, another option is to put the Harmony counter onto the Instrument of the Bards and just grab our 1-mana flyer, play it out immediately. Grab the 1/1-mana creature in this deck, get the absolute most possible out of the Instrument of the Bards. That could be a little interesting. Maybe that is the choice, although just slamming in for 4 damage also seems good. Baleful Beholder, they can make me sacrifice an enchantment, but I don't have any enchantments out right now. Alright. So, if they have more Baleful Beholders, Minimus Containment's going to be a bad removal spell, because if they cast another Beholder, they just make me sacrifice the Minimus Containment and get back the first Beholder. So I'm actually a little less interested in just doing that here than I would be otherwise. I kind of want to just slam down a Priest and hold up set off traps here to just blow that up for 5 damage to the attacking creature. Yep, and then I just hold on to the Instrument here. We're not going to be grabbing the 1-mana Hawk. Six mana now for our opponent. I expect a lot of big stuff. They've cast one spell this game, so unless they kept a hand that just had Grim Bounty and Baleful Beholder, I expect they have a bunch of like 6 mana cards in their hand, which I am pretty scared about. Maybe they even have a pump spell, some sort of combat trick to save the Beholder here, but it's possible, even if they do, that it won't buff it enough to not die to also getting blocked by a priest. We'll see. And if it's something really explosive, like the one that doubles its power and toughness, then by doing this before blocks, we make sure we can get a chump block off if it's going to be a million damage here. They're definitely thinking through what they want to do here. It's possible they have the pump spells. Yep, that's the one I was thinking of, the one that doubles power and toughness. Absolutely go for the chump block here then. I was going to say it's possible they have the pump spell, but they don't want to cast it because they have another powerful like 6 mana card in hand that they want to cast that turn. Right, there's a Horde Robber, so they have drawn something cheap there. Did get a 2-drop. I'll go ahead and put the Instrument of the Bards up to 2 here. We'll go ahead and miss out on grabbing the Hawk, unfortunately. So I can go for the Minimus Containment now because I have really no other option for how I want to try to kill the Beholder. Although I suppose alternatively, thanks to the Instrument of the Bards, I can just grab my Death Toucher. I kind of do like that. They're down to 2 cards in hand, so it may stick around. I would be happy if it did. That'll hold off the Beholder and the 1/3 here. Can trade for the Beholder or kill the 1/3. Well, Gelatinous Cube's really bad for me. They get to exile that Basilisk as long as the Ooze remains on the battlefield. Even if I throw a Minimus Containment on it, it'll still technically be on the battlefield, so I won't get my Underdark Basilisk back until they sacrifice the treasure token, so that's not really going to be a solution to the Gelatinous Cube problem we're having here. So, pretty sure the Basilisk is just gone forever. They only need 3 mana to dissolve it. And we have no good blocks here, we'll just take the 7. So what do we have at 3 mana in the deck? We've already played both our Priestess of Ancient Lore, so we also have Direwolf Prowler in hand. So the only thing at 3 mana that we have is the Circle of the Moon Druid. However, at 2 mana we just have Oswald, or the Dawnbringer Cleric, or the Werewolf Pack Leader. None of these really get us out of this situation. Yeah, nothing's going to save us at any mana cost here, really. I'll have enough mana to play a 3 mana card and use the instrument here, but then I don't get another creature on the board, so I'll take 5 even if I get rid of Beholder. I don't think I'm using the instrument this turn. We'll go ahead and just put it up to 3 and leave it there for now. Try to contain that Beholder. Get that 6 damage to stop coming in now. But again, in green-black, they're pretty likely to have more enchantment removal. Weirdly enough, one of the colors with the most common enchantment removal is black in the set, just because of the Beholders being a very playable card. Get our Direwolf Prowler out here. And pass the turn. Now I can block the 1/3 without losing a creature, so I just take 4 damage in this next turn, and in the future I can hold up the 2 mana to be able to block with a 4/4. That'll trade into the 4/3. I think I'm basically trying to get to 4 mana with the Instrument of the Bards here. Our only 3 mana card remaining in the deck is not very good. Or 3 mana creature, I should say. Alright, send in the squad, sure. Take 4 down to 11. And luckily enough, I will have 8 mana next turn, so I'll have enough mana to use the instrument and immediately cast whatever I grab, which is pretty cool. I could just grab the 3/3. I kind of think I go for that. I think I just grab the 3/3 so I have that to block the cube. Kind of just want to gain the life off of it, because with the Instrument of the Bards frequently just grabbing us a creature, we can likely lock down the long game with it, so let's just gain some more life, make sure we last the long game, rather than getting the plus power out of the creature here. Yeah, we'll get Inspiring Bard, I think. Yeah, because whatever 3/3 I grab here is immediately going to trade for the 4/3 if they attack with it. I'd rather trade off the Inspiring Bard. And yeah, Inspiring Bard, I'd rather gain the 3 life than get in for 2 more damage this turn. Because again, I think Instrument of the Bards should be very, very helpful for the long game. So let's just do everything we can to stay alive. So adding 3 to our life total, I think, is better than subtracting 2 from theirs here. 2 extra, I should say. We are attacking with the Priest of Ancient Lore since it's not doing anything on blocks for us. All it can do is chump block with that 1 toughness against all these 3 toughness creatures. Alright. End step, see what they do here. Maybe they'll dissolve the Underdark Basilisk now. They've got the extra mana to do it. Spoils of the Hunt. Not good for me at all. Means that cube gets in for another attack, but we just go down to 10 life, still very much alive. They have another Spoils of the Hunt. Just a handful of removal here, potentially. Manticore. Okay. Now they've got a flyer out. Our Arborea Pegasus will help a lot against that card. It'll be a 2/3 flyer. So we're down to 8 life. But don't have to worry too hard yet. If they don't have removal for Arborea Pegasus, we can block everything next turn. And Spoils of the Hunt is a great draw. So we have 1, 2, 3, 8, 9. We have 9 mana. I could grab a Pegasus and cast it. I could also just go for Spoils of the Hunt here. Does Dissolve work at instant speed? It does. So if we can Spoils of the Hunt when they're tapped out, we might get there, but that's very unlikely to happen. They have 1 card left in hand and 8 men on board, so I don't think we're ever Spoils of the Hunting while they're tapped out. So I want to save 2 mana up to buff the Direwolf Prowler. Then I can kill the Horde Robber and the cube with it, because I can block the Horde Robber and shoot the cube. So that'll require 5 mana total. If that requires 5 mana, I do have the 4 mana to use the Instrument of the Bards. I can use this at instant speed, though, so I can surprise them with the Pegasus next turn. So we just let the Manticore hit us here. Cast the Pegasus next turn. Maybe play it safe, hold the Priest of Ancient Lore back now that we're at 8 life. Yeah, I think I'll play it really safe here. And just pass the turn. Alright, so they're going to use Dissolve here, and I could respond to Dissolve with the Spoils of the Hunt, but if I do, they can just do it again, because they have more than enough mana to use the ability again. So I can't get the Underdark Basilisk back, no matter what here. Just gotta let it leave us. They might not attack with the Horde Robber this turn, since I do actually have the mana up to buff my Direwolf Prowler. Make it a 4/4 on blocks. Unfortunately, it's the kind of card you can only buff it once each turn, so I can't make it a 6/6. That would be wonderful. I give the flyer +2/+2 here, I'm supposing. Ooh, this is getting close to where I should probably just shoot the flyer and then trade with the cube. I think that is the line here. Going down to 4 life seems real bad. We're going to buff this anyway, so let's just do it right now. just in case they have a pump spell here. I suppose if they have like an instant speed removal spell, we're pretty much dead on the spot. Whereas if I did that with the priest onto the Manticore, they'd have to use the removal on the priest. But I feel we're pretty doomed if they have the instant speed removal either way. But probably marginally better to throw the priest's damage at the Manticore. Now, of course, we have the 4/4 to trade with the cube. Let him get the treasure token from the Horde Robber. They already have more than enough mana for everything. So just trade with the cube here. Grab a 4-mana creature with the instruments. Only have Bull Strength. Alright, well, alright. Actually did work out quite well to go ahead and add the extra power to the Direwolf Prowler before we use Spoils of the Hunt. Otherwise, they could have very much saved it there. I think I do need to get a 3/3 here. They've got a 4/3 and a 3/3 on the board, so I need to get that over the flyer, since we did clear out the flyer there. We still have plenty more 4-mana cards, so I don't want to grab anything else. We do have Dawnbringer Cleric. That'll gain some life when it comes into play. Now we can play Bullet, Cleric, and Plate Armor, but then I'm not grabbing a creature this turn, but I think it's worth it to get this Plate Armor on the board so we have the mana to equip that next turn, make our creatures like our Priest of Ancient Lore actually big enough to trade with something at least. But at best, I mean, it'll be 4 toughness even if we put this on our 2/1, and at 4 toughness it's big enough to block Inspiring Bard without dying. This is where that Instrument of the Bards might lock things down for us. This is where we might have finally started turning the corner. Our opponent had no cards in hand before this turn, so they're on top decks. We're on consistent creature draws from this point on, and we're taking 1 damage here, knocking 2 of their creatures off the board. A 1/3 against a 1/3 after this turn, unless they drew into an immediate combat trick. So let's see here. I think regardless of what they drew, the all attack is probably their best play here because they can see what's coming here. With an Instrument of the Bards and Plate Armor out on our board, we can definitely start locking things down the longer this game goes. And we do get to clear out those 2 creatures. They get a treasure token, but they're down to 1 creature now. Feeling very good here. They do have a Death Toucher. I don't love that. But I suppose we'll trade our 2/1 into the Death Toucher. Grab our Pegasus here and just cast it. No attacks though. We'll block the 1/3 with our 2/3 flyer. We'll block the 1/2 Death Touch with our 2/1. Next turn we'll grab our next Arborea Pegasus, and then we'll start working the Instrument of the Bards up to 6 mana to grab our White Dragon. Send in the squad. We'll see what they've got. Maybe another Spoils of the Hunt here to kill the Pegasus off the Underdark Basilisk's Death Touch or something. Although I suppose if they had that, they'd probably use it pre-combat. Get in for an extra point of damage that way. Could be another pump spell. Another Bull's Strength. They can save one of these creatures. They gotta choose which is more valuable. If they save the Horde Robber, they'd kill the Pegasus. So they also have to choose which is better to kill. Yeah, pretty much there. So they kill the Pegasus, but we're gonna grab another one this turn. And we've drawn a Werewolf Pack Leader. Grab our Pegasus. Play all of these. Now we have a 3/3 to block the 1/3. We've got a Pegasus out as well. Start working that Instruments up to 6 Harmony counters, which means all of our mana will be available to do with as we please next turn. So we can throw a Plate Armor onto the Werewolf Pack Leader and buff it so that we trigger its pack tactics on an attack while still holding a creature back. That seems absolutely fantastic. Oh, I suppose if we draw White Dragon, though, then our Instrument of the Bards is now completely redundant. Wow, what a draw that turn. That was excellent. Both draws there. Yeah, now the Instrument of the Bards does not grab any creatures in our deck. We can just keep raising it up in counters to look real scary, I suppose, but we do have lethal on board here. And wow, that game really showing off the power of the Instrument of the Bards. If you can get to the long game, that just kept supplying us with creatures to throw under the bus to all of their combat tricks and chump blocks and all of that, until eventually we drew enough creatures out of it to trade with everything they had on board, and then just draw a little bit more to turn things around in our favor. What an excellent draw in that last turn, though, that White Dragon and the Werewolf Pack Leader. The Pack Leader, of course, drawing an extra card every turn there to really close things out. Super solid stuff from the rares in the deck there. Alright, and here's a hand with multiple rares, although I don't know how much the Fiddlebender counts. Paladin class is certainly one heck of a card, though. So it is always nice to get that out turn 1. Turn 1 Paladin class, turn 2 we play Fiddlebender, turn 3 just level that up because we're not going to have the mana to equip this Plate Armor for quite some time. Plate Armor is a much slower card than it looks like. It's a very late game card because of how much that equip costs. Usually earlier in the game you just want to keep dumping out creatures, so Plate Armor, going to wait on that. We'll play the upgrade on the Paladin class this turn, and then we'll play our Pegasus the turn after that, and then we'll probably slam down a Plate Armor. Do I have to upgrade at sorcery speed? I do. Alright, so we'll level up right there. Send in. We're playing against a black deck with a Sepulchre Ghoul. This lets them sacrifice a creature once per turn to give it +2/+2, so potentially a little 4/3 here. Opponent is stuck on stuck on 2 mana here, stuck on 2 swamps. I'll just go with the ground creature then. And very glad I did, because that'll get bigger since they did make a chump block there. But mainly because it's going to be a 4/4. They're unlikely to have a 3-mana creature that can trade into this, so it'll get in for more damage than the Pegasus would. And if they do, we can just give it flying with the Pegasus. So this way we are curving out for as much damage as possible here, and it's going to be absolutely ridiculous. If they don't have a 2-mana removal spell here, we could go for the Paladin class and get Double Strike here. That'd be lethal right there, so I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for the potential lethal here. If they have the 2-mana instant speed removal spell, they can kill the bullet and survive, but otherwise, I mean, I guess it's not quite lethal, because it only gets +1/+1 for each other attacking creature. It doesn't get +1/+1 for itself. So it actually puts them down to 2 instead of 0. So I miscounted on the lethal there, but I think still worth pushing it in with an Arborea Pegasus coming up. Paladin class is just one absolutely bonkers card, and it is probably going to let us capitalize too hard on our opponent's mana screw at the start of this game for them to come back. And yeah, there is the concession from our opponent, unfortunately. Not much of a game there. Just an absurd rare really capitalizing on our opponent's mana situation. So heading into round 4 undefeated now. I am really, really liking this deck. I think the very powerful rares in the deck, I already liked them beforehand. The Werewolf Pack Leader and Paladin class, those kinds of cards were already clearly very powerful, already a fan of them. But after round 2, definitely a much bigger fan of that Instrument of the Bards than I was before I tried it out here. Card really worked out. Not so sure it's quite as good in draft, because draft does tend to be quite a bit faster, but in these long sealed games. That card can really take over. So really liking this deck, really enjoying what's coming out of it here. I am going to keep this. We have both of our colors, we have some plays, but certainly nothing particularly exciting here. Definitely none of our rares or anything. Only the one creature, but potentially we can throw a plate armor on that, start attacking for 4 in the sky every turn. Now we have drawn into a Priest of Ancient Lore. So we're getting some more plays. That's pretty nice. Our opponent's on black-white, starting with a Hired Hexblade, just a little 2-mana 2/2. Doesn't do anything extra unless they had sacrificed a treasure to cast it. Do I want to get a blocker for their 2/2 or just potentially set up to start slamming in the sky? Against white-black, I think they're more likely to have removal than anything else, but if they have to use a removal on our 1-drop creature because we threw a plate armor on it, I think that's all in all pretty good for us. So I'm going to actually, I'm just going to go for it. Go for the aggressive plate armor play. Not something I do a lot. Usually I use this to try to close out the late game, but see if we can't make it a 4/4. And yeah, there they go. Have to use the removal on the 1-drop creature there, which is fine. We still have definitely plays next turn. We didn't need to just spend next turn equipping our flyer. We've drawn the white dragon here. Definitely important to keep in mind if we draw our Instrument of the Bards. I think we go for the Priest here, holding up a green mana in case we draw the Instrument. We've played our 1-mana white card. We do have a 1-mana green card left in the deck. Alright, Spoils the Hunt, a pretty great draw here. The instant speed little damage spell. The instant speed bite spell. I wish there were a better name for it because bite and fight sound so similar, and I get that that's the pun people are going for. But there's just this problem where every time I see green removal, because I started drafting when like fighting was really a thing, like back in Innistrad and stuff like that, every time I see a green removal spell, I always expect it to be target creature fights another creature, which means that they deal damage to each other. But now green has really moved to all this stuff where your creature deals damage equal to its power to something. I really would like there to be just a quick, efficient name for that. And the name people have come up with has been a bite spell, because it's a pun on fight spells, but that just gets me more confused. I just keep thinking it's a fight spell. Anyways, with all that nonsense out of the way, what do I want to play this turn? Do I want to play a 3/3? If I play a 3/3, they can't really attack in well. They can't attack in well against the Basilisk either, and if I do that, I get to hold up the something on watch to set off traps. But I don't really want to set off traps on this half-elf monk. This thing's annoying, but it's kind of just okay. Just let it happen. Yeah. I'll just play my 3/3 here. We're pretty safe to just play it slow here. Get this on the board. Sure, they can attack and tap it down, but they're not going to put any pressure on us this turn. We're kind of both still just setting up at this point in the game. Shambling Ghast is the next play. And that Warlock class can draw them a card. Later in the game, it can be a big Lava Axe style effect for that 7 mana, making us lose life equal to the damage they lost in any turn. So if we lose 5 life in one turn, then all of a sudden, bam, now we take 5 more at the end of our turn. So Warlock class can get real scary later. I might want to save Portable Hold to deal with that. I could even use it right now, and then they'll just be down a card. They can't even draw a card off of it if I just get rid of it right now. Actually does seem kind of fun. I'm not playing anything 4 mana this turn, so I could just do that and equip Plate Armor. Although then the Half-Elf Monk just taps down the Bullet. So maybe I just play the Basilisk here, or hold up the something on watch. Yeah, a lot of options. If I equip Bullet, I'm taking 2 damage next turn. That is not bad at all. Yeah, I'm just going to equip. Ooh, and they let it go off, so they don't have the mana to tap it down anymore because of that Ward 1. So we get a kill with Bullet here, which means it gets a +1/+1 counter after this. Absolutely beautiful. They can't even have something on watch now because it would cost 3 mana to cast it. So this turn just went really well for me that they didn't respond to equipping the Plate Armor. I'm starting to think they might have you hear something on watch here, because I feel like the only reason, unless they just clicked too fast, which is entirely possible, they may have just clicked through their turn too fast, but unless you had another 2 mana instant speed thing to do, I feel like you would have just tapped down in response to plate armor there. So I will keep that in mind, that they probably have like a 2 mana instant speed removal spell. So they were planning on doing like 5 damage to it, but they didn't realize it was going to have Ward 1 after that. Or maybe they just wanted to tap it down after we equipped the armor, but they didn't realize that the Ward 1 part was going to come in. Again, don't really feel the need to hold up these removal spells against this 1/4 right now. So let's just suit up a big old Death Toucher here. 4/5 Death Touch, Ward 1. Planar Ally. I may kill that. They don't have the mana to tap down my Underdark Basilisk here. So I do get to send in with the 4/5. They have no way to block and kill it. So I think I'll definitely send it in. But then how do I want to kill Planar Ally? I think I do want to cast Spoils of the Hunt on it. Because Minimus Containment can hit any non-land permanent, so if they play a really threatening class or something, we can hold this up to deal with that. And something on watch can't kill it until it attacks, and if I wait until it attacks, they get value by venturing into the dungeon, then they get to grab a treasure token or a 1/1 goblin. I guess it's not great value, so it might be worth just using this because it is more situational. But also, if they have another Grim Bounty or a Minimus Containment or something to kill my creature, Spoils of the Hunt isn't going to be a removal spell at all anymore. So I kind of do also like using this while I know I have a creature to use it with. So let's get that Planar Ally out of here before it ventures farther. Delver's Torch from our opponent. Well, suppose we'll kill the Half-Elf Monk now. They throw that onto the Half-Elf Monk, so it gets to venture every time it attacks. It turns into a 2/5 as well, but 5 toughness is low enough to die to the traps that we've placed around camp. Interesting. Alright, this is suspicious. I suppose they do need 3 mana to tap down the Basilisk. I think we just go for it here. I mean, they need 3 mana to tap down the Basilisk, so this could be them just wanting to tap down Basilisks to stop me from hitting them. There I was a little concerned, maybe they're holding up an instant, that's why they didn't equip there, but then I was like, they just have that Basilisk tapper. So it was probably that, especially since there was no response to that. I guess we'll find out right now. Maybe it is a removal spell. Oh, it is. All right. It is the you hear something on watch. I actually did figure it out on that earlier play with the plate armor. They were holding on to that the whole time. So now we get an Instrument of the Bards out. That is going to set up to lock down the long game here, as it did a couple matches ago. I'm feeling very good about our position here. They do get a big old white dragon, which would be scary, but we do have a removal spell left over, thankfully. So we will just get that removed immediately. Although, there's our own white dragon, so maybe we just tap it down for a turn and then remove it. The land draw was great here. The white dragon war begins. And a Lightfoot Rogue is the play. That can get Death Touch every time it attacks, which could be annoying, but with the Instrument of the Bards, we'll have plenty of blockers to trade into that. They are going to get to venture pretty far into the dungeon here, because I'm not going to put a creature out with the Instrument for a while, because I am just going to permanently deal with that white dragon for now. I suppose if they have one of those Beholders, then they will blow that up. And it might have been better to suit up our white dragon with plate armor there. If we did, we would have hit for 7 and they'd be at 7 life here. Yeah, no, it was almost definitely better to just suit up the plate armor than to use the Instrument of the Bards. I think I got too excited to use that effect. We should have just suited up our white dragon with plate armor there to present lethal in 2 turns here. None of our stuff is killed right now with any enchantments or anything. So we don't need the Dawnbringer. Oswald Fiddlebender does give us a treasure token, but Werewolf Pack Leader can start drawing us cards, and it's the biggest card. I kind of do like Fiddlebender here, though, because I like having a 2-2 to trade with that 2 toughness thing there. Could equip Plate Armor. They're dead in 2 turns if I equip it now or equip it afterwards. I think I am going to equip it now, though. Make up for past mistakes. Not quite. If I made up for past mistakes entirely, then they'd be dead right now, but get close. Now they're down to 3, and they scoop them up. Just no way to kill the white dragon. Again, we should have killed him a turn faster. I just got a little overexcited about our Instrument of the Bards. I was too committed to spending our mana into that. Had we spent our mana into the equip cost and suited up our white dragon a turn earlier, as you can see, instead of being at 3 life, they would have been at 0, because our white dragon would have had +3/+3 the turn before. So a bit of a misplay there that gave our opponent another draw step to potentially find a way out of it. Luckily enough for us, they didn't draw removal for white dragon, and we were in a firm enough position. Even if they did with the Instrument of the Bards, we were likely to still overwhelm them, playing multiple creatures a turn. But certainly not played ideally there. So here we are in round 5. We have a similar game to the one we had a few games ago. Although if our opponent isn't mana screwed like they were the other game we played Paladin class, they could probably survive it. And a turn 1 Secret Door is going to be a great start to that. Just a 0/4 blocker to save a ton of damage for a while here. That'll soak up all the damage from Oswald until we give him Double Strike or something. There's the Thieves' Tools from our opponent, getting a treasure token and making any of their creatures with power 3 or less that get equipped unblockable. Yuan-Ti Fangblade, that is going to be a great combo with the Thieves' Tools. I'll hold on to my removal spells here. Although it may look a little suspicious because I could level up the Paladin class here. I think I'll be casting Set Off Traps, dealing 5 damage to that on attacks. There's Precipitous Drop to kill Oswald. As they venture farther into the dungeon. Liking this hand quite a bit. We have 5 mana, so we're pretty close to being able to cast the White Dragon in terms of lands drawn. Only need to draw 1 more land by turn 6 to do so, so we have a pretty good late game here. Alright, let's deal 5 to that attacking creature. It might have been better to just go for the Spoils of the Hunt for the kill on the Fangblade there, because we're not likely to have another creature out for a while, so Spoils of the Hunt isn't likely to be able to kill something for a while. But ideally, Spoils of the Hunt can kill more things because it doesn't have to kill an attacker. All things considered, probably was better to just have cast Spoils of the Hunt instead of Rouse the Traps. There's Borrowing of Clan Under. Ventures when it comes into play. If they complete a dungeon, it gets some great value whenever it attacks, but if not, kind of just chills. Oh, that's a brutal draw for us. That's the 1/1 mana creature in the deck, so our plan this turn was to spend 4 mana to grab it and then 1 to cast it, but if we just draw it naturally, we can't do anything with the instrument here. If I put a 1/1 on this board, it doesn't really help much with Spoils of the Hunt, so it might be better to just get this next level on Paladin class instead. Yeah, let's go ahead. Just level up the Paladin class. And again, this is where not casting Spoils of the Hunt is going to come back to bite us. Because if we had, we could just use this to kill Borrowin, and now it's going to stay on board. What is this? When a creature you control becomes blocked, return it to its owner's hand. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we're going to get punished as hard as possible for that line that we took. because now they're drawing cards off of the fact that we can't block here. Really hoping for the 6th mana for the white dragon there, but instead we can get a Pegasus and a Ranger's Hawk out. Have some blockers at least. Go for every block that we can, but with Thieves' Tools with that Grazilax out, Thieves' Tools is very devastating. Our opponent's likely to just draw extra cards every point of this game for a while. I guess we could have cast just the Ranger's Hawk, and then we could cast Spoils of the Hunt to kill Grazilax, but then we don't have great blocks here. Might be worth it to stop their card draw as quickly as possible. That one's more debatable than the set off traps versus Spoils of a Hunt earlier. That one was just a straight up misplay. Here I think I do still like getting the 2 creatures on board. If they want to guarantee the draw of Thieves' Tools, they have to cast some removal or equip Thieves' Tools. So they have to dump some mana into heading towards that game plan. It looks like they have, throwing it on up and borrowing. Alright, so they draw a card there. This is another game I'm going to focus pretty heavily on trying to get max value out of the Instrument of the Bards. I've already drawn my 6 mana creature, so if I just speed up to 4 counters on this thing, I'm only going to get like 3 cards out of it over the course of this game. So I'm going to try to drip every last bit of value I can out of the Instrument and grab every 2-drop before I move on to 3. But it's probably going to be a decent while before I even start using that effect, because I really have to deal with Grazilax. Our opponent has 4 mana up thanks to the treasure token. They just passed the turn here. We have White Dragon mana, but I don't love casting White Dragon. If I do cast White Dragon, then they are going to draw another card next turn. I guess I could try to just get as aggressive as possible. So my board's going to be all flyers. I'll be attacking with a 4/5 double striker here. And a 2/2, so I hit for 10 damage. I kill them in 2 turns if they don't have removal. So maybe throwing out a White Dragon is good. I just let them draw as many cards as they want off of Grazilax. We just try to outrace them here. If 4 mana up here, they could have like a counter spell. Could have a removal spell. They probably have an instant speed removal spell. I think they would have held on to that considering they're under 10 damage worth of pressure in the sky here. So if they do have one, they go for it. Oh, let's go for the combat here. See if it works. Oh my god, they have nothing? If they have nothing there, I am going to go for the White Dragon. Keep Borrowing tapped, so they have to move the Thieves' Tools again if they want to hit us and draw a card. But now they're 10, facing a bunch of flyers, any one of which can gain double strike. Maybe they just don't have interaction drawn right now. And the Paladin class will still just get him here, even through the misplays we made earlier. I say we. I do say the royal we a lot in videos and Twitch streams and stuff. I think that's just a thing that people do, so I've picked up on it and I do it myself. But I probably shouldn't say we here. The mistakes are all mine. Shouldn't drag you into it. Alright, 10 life here, 5 mana up. We have a bunch of unblockable flyers. Gelatinous Cube gets rid of one of them, but that's lethal on board. They've got 1 mana to interact with. and they scoop them up. Good lord, Paladin class is an absurd card. If there is one takeaway to take out of that game, that is the takeaway. I made a couple misplays there, and still Paladin class going to ride us on to 5-0 here. Really, really solid stuff. I believe the sealeds cost 2,000 gems to get into. I might be wrong. I think that's what it costs. So if we could get just one more win, we're breaking even here, which is absolutely wonderful. This has been an absolutely fantastic sealed run with this green-white deck here. Some great, great rares. The Instrument of the Bards didn't pan out in that game just because Paladin class puts on so much pressure to our opponent that basically just shoved us into the aggressive position. But still have been loving that card. And of course, the Paladin class is ridiculous. But overall, some very, very fun stuff in this deck. So here we are in round 6. We get a turn 1 Ranger's Hawk into a turn 2 Dawnbringer Cleric. A little bit concerned that I have a 4 and a 6 mana card in this hand with only 2 lands in it, but if I hit my 3rd land, Priest of Ancient Lord draws me an extra card, which can dig towards another land or another cheap spell. Our opponent's on the play here, so we will be drawing before turn 1, before we cast anything. Since we're on the draw, I think I'm going to go ahead and keep this. I'd consider a mulligan if we were on the play, but not too heavily. Again, because I just really do not like mulliganing in limited unless it is super necessary. And in here we have both of our colors at the very least, so any land makes the hand good, not just specifically a plains or specifically a forest or any of that. So I am going to run out the Dawnbringer Cleric so that I can block the Horde Robbers so they don't just start getting treasure tokens and ramping into big plays early. If they didn't have a Horde Robber out, I see that they have white mana. It might be worth just sandbagging the Dawnbringer Cleric, just holding it in our hand no matter what. Because of the fact that we know they have white, so it's incredibly likely they have Minimus Containment. Since this is a removal spell, anyone who has a sealed deck and is playing white is going to play any copies of Minimus Containment that they opened up. So just because of that, when you're playing against white, if they have no pressure on you, it's probably better to just hold on to the Dawnbringer Cleric, now that I think of it. Should I kill the Horde Robber so they can't get more treasures? It's possible. I mean, I turned the Horde Robber into a treasure so they can use it for mana here, but the fact that they played it on turn 2 and then they played Thieves' Tools on turn 3 means they're stuck on 2 lands. So we could try to really pressure them here by just soaking up their ability to make more treasures. Probably not worth it though, because the Minimus Containments can kill like anything, and they have to spend their next turn throwing the tools onto the Horde Robber anyway. Yeah, it's not like they're going to ramp into like playing something next turn, since they'll use all of their mana next turn just to equip the tools in the first place. Like, we can still put plenty pressure on them for getting mana screwed here just by attacking with all our cards. We'll let the Horde Robber do its thing, get them 1 temporary mana every turn. Do they play another 2 mana card here, or do they just pass the turn, is the question. They might have another little 2 mana 1/3 or something, but they're considering holding on so that they could play like a 5 mana card next turn. I suppose these are the kind of decisions they have to make since their mana is primarily treasure tokens right now. Just the one-time cash in on those. Certainly a difficult position to be in. Again, the reason that I didn't go for the Minimus Containment there is because if they do manage to ramp into big stuff off the Horde Robber, we can just use the containments on the big stuff. And this way we're just putting pressure on doing a bunch of damage to them instead of trying to keep their mana soaked up. They may have an instant speed removal spell here. I doubt they'd use it. Our biggest creature's a 2/1 right now. I don't think it would be worth sacrificing treasures to do that, because that means they just don't get that mana next turn. But who knows, we'll see. Alright, and here I kind of like playing Werewolf Pack Leader better than playing Bullet. Bullet potentially gets bigger throughout this game, but the Pack Leader draws us cards when it's attacking, which is just phenomenal. I guess the other big reason would be if we do top deck a land next turn, no matter what land it is, forest or plains, we'd be able to cast the Pack Leader and Minimus Containment next turn, so we'd be able to curve out better if we hit another land. But again, I like attacking with Pack Leader a lot better than I like attacking with Bullet right now. Well, I suppose we have plenty cards currently. Yeah, risk it for the biscuit. See if we top deck a land next turn. If we do top deck a land next turn, Bullet's a way better play, because then we have a great turn 5, being able to cast both of these. And this isn't that much worse to be missing out on a card draw this turn, because we already have more cards than we can play for a while. We only get to dump out one of these a turn if we don't hit another land. There's a Mimic from our opponent. Costs 2 mana to make that a 3/3. They do have 2 treasure tokens to do that, but if they spend the treasure tokens just to make a 3/3 blocker, I think that all in all is pretty great for us. So I'm just going to go for the all-out attack here, even if they do get to kill a Priest of Ancient Lore without losing a creature. And we do hit the land. We have risked it for the biscuit, which means we get to Minimus Containment this turn, but I don't even want to use Minimus Containment on anything. I could use it on the Mimic to make sure I get in with everybody, but I'm actually pretty cool with the Mimic trading for whatever, because that means 2 treasure tokens are permanently gone. Actually 3 treasure tokens, because the Mimic itself is a treasure token, sort of. Yeah, I'm just going to attack with everybody, and again, still hold on to these Minimus Containments. Even though we did hit the 5 mana, I was expecting like a good blocker this turn or something, but our opponent is just in a very bad position overall. I suppose our creatures don't have all that much power, so they're not under infinite pressure, but the mana situation has not been getting any better for them. Okay, they're going to use You Hear Something on Watch to kill the 3/3 without losing the Mimic. Interesting choice. I think they probably just want to stop every point of damage they possibly can right now. I might have gone for just activating Mimic to make it a 3/3 and then kill the 2/1. You kill a slightly smaller creature that way, so you take 1 less damage. Or you take 1 more damage, but then you keep the You Hear Something on Watch to use on something the next turn after. Although I suppose if they went for that, then Bullet would get bigger, because a different one of my creatures would have died. So it'd be a 4/4. Yeah, no, they're fine. I think that's as good a line as any there. And of course, we don't know what's in their hand. They may have a ton more removal if they get the mana for it. Ooh, I really like these swamps from them. I believe there are 3 different artworks for each basic in the set, and they're all very cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 damage on board, so don't really think double Minimus Containments to play if we hit another land. If we hit another land, White Dragon's going to be exceptional. Just tap down the Death Toucher and send in with the field. They are still attacking with that Horde Robber. Again, almost definitely just because of how stuck they are on mana. So here is the treasure token. And that's 3 mana out for them with 3 lands as well, so they could play a 6 mana card next turn or a 7 mana card if they do it post-combat. They have to have something real good to get out of this. They have a Dawnbringer Cleric to gain some life. That does helps a good bit. It's a good blocker too. Although we do draw that White Dragon mana, so we get to tap down the Death Toucher, which is excellent. We have a big creature attacking in the sky. I definitely want to trigger Pack Tactics. And in order to trigger Pack Tactics, I have to attack with Priest of Ancient Lore, which will get blocked by Dawnbringer Cleric, which means I might as well attack with everybody. I think it's worth sacrificing the Priest of Ancient Lore to trigger Pack Tactics here, draw another card. 4, 5. 5 damage there. There's another Thieves' Tools. Can throw that onto the Fang Blade, although it's still tapped right now, so it won't do anything immediately. And a Celestial Unicorn for another blocker. They're at 7 life here, so if they do send in the Horde Robber attack again, we'll go for the double containment, kill the Cleric and the Unicorn. But if they just hold everybody back, we can just go for the Paladin class here, give our whole field +1/+1, go for lethal in the sky. Yeah, there'd be a 5/5 and a 2/2 in the sky. I think we should probably just go for that either way, because it gives us lethal in the sky alone. Attack with all these, draw a card off the pack leader, have lethal damage presented in the sky. They have 1 mana up and 1 card in hand, 1 mana from the Mimic they can sacrifice as a treasure. They have no lifelink, so I think that we're safe. Alright, that leads into a 6-0 for us. Although again, another round where our opponent was in quite the predicament mana-wise. Not a good game for them there for sure. Just desperately having to throw the Horde Robber at us to get those treasures. So here we are, and potentially the final round here. Round 7, 6-0 thus far. See if we can't get a 7-0 run in this sealed. If there was a sealed deck that I was going to do it, it would be the one with the Paladin class in it. So let's see. Paladin class ho. Turn 1, let's go. And an Evolving Wilds will start the game for our opponent. As they grab a basic land, they grab a mountain here, so we are against a red deck. Go for the Underdark Basilisk here. Unlikely to level up the Paladin class for a little while, because now I can ramp out with some pretty aggressive plays as long as I'm hitting mana. Circle of the Moon Druid comes out as a 4/2 on turn 3. Then we have Arborea Pegasus the next turn, which can give that 4/2 +1/+1 flying and hit them in the sky for 5 damage, which is great. They have a 3/1 here. Kind of do like trading that with the Basilisk. Do I hold it back to do so, or do I attack into it to do so? I guess I just hold it back here, because the Circle of the Moon Druid's a 2/4 to block that anyway. So I don't really need to trade for it right now. And I get to attack with the Circle of the Moon Druid in the sky this next turn. We've got a Minimus Containment too. Playing against a Boros aggro deck here. The 2 mana 3/1 into the 3 mana 3/3 haste. I'll trade that 3/3 haste for my Death Toucher. I'll take the rest of the damage here. Paladin class makes it so even against an aggressive deck like Boros, we can very much try to just press our own aggro. Priest of Ancient Lore is actually just really good at blocking their stuff, so I think I'm again just not going to go for the Paladin class level up here. Yeah, because that's going to gain me life, draw me a card, and trade with a Dwarfhold champion, which is just excellent all around. And now we have a 2/4 and a 2/1 to block with, so they don't have good attacks here. Arborea Pegasus being great in this situation, just sending in with flying every turn. Whenever we fully activate the Paladin class, a flying double striker is a very quick way to close a game. There's their own Arborea Pegasus, so they can get some damage in if they want. And they go for it. I am very fine with that. I think, again, we're still in a great aggressive position here. Now we have enough mana to level up the Paladin class and send in with some people here. If I level up the Paladin class, that makes the Circle of the Moon Druid a 5/3. So if I Minimus Containment a Dwarfhold champion here, they don't have anything that can trade with the Circle of the Moon Druid. I can Minimus Containment Dwarfhold champion, attack with everybody else. They can crack back for 5, but we're attacking for 11 damage that turn, so it's very likely they take a trade with the Priest of Ancient Lore or make a chump block here. I think it's worth it. Just put a ton of pressure on. That is a lot of damage going to their face. They do not really have a good block. Their only block that results in a trade is a trade with our Priest of Ancient Lore. So they go to 2 here. 2 life against this board. We get to play a haste creature next turn as well, so it's going to be very hard to survive another turn here. Dawnbringer Cleric will help a lot, gaining some life and giving them another blocker. Ooh, they go for the kill on the Paladin class. All right. I guess, yeah, that is better. They had a lot of choices on the Dawnbringer Cleric there, actually. They could kill the Minimus Containment, the Paladin class, or they could gain 2 life. All 3 of those actually really good options in this position when you're at 2 life facing multiple powerful enchantments. They go for the Veteran Dungeoneer here. All right, if they attack me with a single creature, we get to get in with a haste creature and close out this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I really wouldn't be surprised if they do, unless they venture into the dungeon that lets them gain a life here. All right, they venture into the Scry one. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if they attack with 1 creature here, because against a green-white deck, you're not really expecting haste. Although, if you've played enough of this format, you will recognize the power of Direwolf Prowler out of nowhere, sometimes closing out a game. So, we no longer have good attacks. They're at 2 life. All we need to do is get a single attack in at some point. Direwolf Prowler does give us a haster here. We attack with a 4/4. We get to clear out the 3/4. We clear out one of the blockers. I suppose they could... No, that's their best block, right? Any other block they make, I get to kill multiple creatures, so they block with a 3/4 and a 1/3. But if I play it and buff it, they don't get to double block. So I have two hourglasses to spend on the rope here, so I'm going to see what their best possible block is. They have to block every single creature, so if they block every single creature, the Pegasi bounce off each other. That's the only block they can make, so that block has to happen. So Pegasi bounce off each other, Dawnbringer kills the Priest, Circle trades with the 3/1. And then the Veteran Dungeoneer... I guess the Dawnbringer Cleric trumps the Prowler, the Veteran Dungeoneer kills the Priest. These bounce off each other, these trade with each other. So these are gone, we both still have a Pegasus. Dawnbringer Cleric's gone, so they're stuck with a 3/4 and a 2/3 in the sky. We're stuck with a 2/3 in the sky and a 4/4 on the ground. So 2/3 in the sky and a 4/4 versus a 2/3 and a 3/4. Is it worth the attack, or do we just try to hold out for a white dragon or something? They have 2 cards in hand. I think with 2 cards in hand, we hold out for another draw here. Because if we go for that attack, it does leave both fields with 2 creatures out, and they're very likely with 2 cards left in hand to have another creature like this here, and then they have 3 creatures out against my 2. They can easily double block 3/4 and a 2/3 onto my 4/4, and then I'm not getting in any turn from that point on. So yeah, we're holding out for anything to clear 1 creature out of the way, and Portable Hole will do it. There goes 1 creature. Send in with these 4, a single one gets through and they're dead. And there's the concession leading into the 7-0 sealed run in Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. My first 7-0 in draft or sealed and limited of the set. All around, what can I say about this deck that I haven't said already? Very solid sealed pool. The white stuff was great. I was a little less sure about the green, because I felt like the most powerful green cards were great. The Werewolf Pack Leader, the Spoils of the Hunt, and then maybe the Instrument of the Bards would have been good. But it turns out Instrument of the Bards was a lot of fun, and it did close out a few games for us, so that was really cool. Werewolf Pack Leader was even better than I thought. It was consistently drawing us some cards. The Spoils were great. And even the more filler green cards, the Bullet, the Inspiring Bard and stuff, the Direwolf Prowler in that last game, and the Circle of the Moon Druid put in some solid work for us. So very great deck all around. Of course, Paladin class being absolutely absurd, that being the #1 card in the whole deck. Plate Armor was great as well. Could have even played with it better and gotten a quicker kill off the White Dragon one game. But the sealed pool and the deck in general was just so powerful that we found the 7-0 even through a few misplays. So all in all, quite a great sealed run. And we'll see what we get in our prize packs here as we close things out. There's a Monk class. Interesting class. This one I have not played at all in Limited yet. You get to bounce a card when you level it up. makes your second spell each turn cheaper, and then on the final one, if you cast 2 spells in a turn, you start drawing extra cards, so very, very interesting class. Wanting you to double up on your spells every turn. There's that gelatinous cube. One of our opponents used this to great effect against us, getting rid of our Death Toucher permanently thanks to being able to engulf it inside the cube and dissolve it at a later time. Very flavorful mechanics on this card. And our final pack, our final reward for the 7-0 run is an Ochre Jelly, a green and X for a gigantic XX jelly that splits when it dies. Very fun card. This one, not insane, but certainly a pretty high pick in draft, a fun card to play around with. So that is going to end today's video. As always, I hope you all enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed playing this one a ton, and I would like to thank you all, especially those who made it all the way to the end of the video here, for all your support lately. All of the views on the D&D stuff has been crazy. All the supportive comments have been absolutely lovely. So just thank you very much for sticking around, checking out the videos, and if you want to support the content and let the YouTube algorithm know you're interested in seeing more, just like, comment, and subscribe, all those good things. And as always, I'll see you all again very soon for some more Magic Arena.